guys who just moved to New York and they all share a small apartment. Did you see that coming? No, because it has nothing to do with anything. It's just random. And random is easy. And in terms of storytelling, like, the reason that having Satan be the bad guy is stupid is because there's no foreshadowing there. There's no narrative thread there. It's just a, whoop, gotcha. And having the ending be what it was the same thing. Oh, didn't see that coming, did you?
It's like, well, no, because... What?
Because, what? So, I don't know. I think Castlevania's strong suit, the whole game, wasn't storytelling. I think it had a lot of good set pieces. And the set pieces were really convincing. There was good characters. But what it did not have was a very strong, overarching sense of what you're even doing. You know, going from level to level, I was never really sure what I was even doing in that level. Like, what's the point? What's the mask even for? So it brings my wife back. But what are the Lords of Shadow then? Like, where do... I mean, it wasn't... The whole thing was very convoluted, relatively speaking, for a story that... Or for a kind of a larger story that was very simple.
And it's like, it clashes with the presentation because they put a lot of it into the cutscenes and the acting.
Right.
Like, they have a bunch of good actors doing this stuff.
And for some reason, it seems like that should have been something that, for that game, should have been much easier to handle. You know, making the story...
Better writing. I mean, it's really just a failure of writing. That's what happened there. It's bad writing. But... And I'm very interested in the idea of a Castlevania game set in modern times, because, like, how do you do that? How does that even work? I mean, some of the GBA games, like Dawn of Sorrow and Aria of Sorrow, are set in the future. There's a gun in both of those games, but I mean, this is like a very contemporized approach. Right. I don't think they'll get to make a sequel. I doubt it, but you know, I'd like to see that explored. But I just think they could have snuck that in a little, you know, with a little more subtlety rather than, you know, what a twist.
I think the sad part about the game in general is that it was one of the strongest action games of the year. And at the end of the year, I think the game... It
is a great game. Like, it is a fantastic game.
The game that's overshadowing all of the other action games this year is Bayonetta. I think Sega and Platinum both did a really good job of selling the world on what Bayonetta was. I think Konami did just about nothing. I mean, literally nothing at all.
They were like, hey, Kojima, he worked on it, sort of.
Yeah, but not even. At their pre-E3 event, where they get to show E3 judges all the games, where we get to talk about what's exciting at E3. How was our interview with Mercury Steam at E3, by the way? Oh, wait, we didn't have one, because they didn't do anything with them. How was the E3 judges presentation? Nope, didn't get one of those either. They showed us Saw 2, we played. We played Glee karaoke. We played Def Jam Rap Star, and we played the Luchador wrestling game. That's what they had for us instead of Castlevania. I mean, they just didn't they did nothing. They did zero. And then people forgot about it and didn't talk about it. And now it's an afterthought.
They had the first two levels, I think, at E3, and I think that's, considering how much variety there is in that game, even that's it's a bad... That's why everyone left E3 saying, this is just God of War 3.
Considering how huge that game is, though, the game is massive. I'm sure that some of it was done.
Right, but I mean, think about how many, like, you know, varieties, how many enemy variety, you know, you encountered, or I mean, you remember the scene where you're riding on the beasts?
Oh, that part's terrible.
Thing.
Yeah,
that's what they had. That's what they showed.
That part was really bad, and you never do it again. Like, that's it.
Yeah, like they had that chess game. And I wrote about this in my review. Like, there's a bunch of stuff in the game where they just do something, and you're like, "Whoa, this is probably going to come back." Like, you know, you use those beasts to navigate into special areas, and like you to harness one or something, like a spider to create a bridge. They only do that a few times, and it's gone forever.
I mean,
move on to the next thing.
There's so much variety in that game. The game itself is so huge and massive, and it makes it really exciting. But it also makes you wonder, what the hell? Like, why didn't the world know about this? Why weren't they showing all the different things you could do? I mean, Konami could not have done. That's quite honestly.
Yeah, but I mean, the reviews heard it too. Like, it was very polarizing, as we have discovered on our very own show.
Right. I just think that, you know, here's where I'll get a little
Richard liked a lot as well.
Here's some inside baseball, though. I think game critics, I think they do need to be told a lot of times. Right. I think if there was a good story coming out of Konami and coming out of Mercury Steam about what this was, why they did things a certain way, how much work went into it, how small the team was. All those types of things absolutely would have affected its review scores. You know what people knew about Castlevania, what reviewers knew about it before they went in? Nothing. It's a Castlevania game. I mean, because there wasn't any story. They weren't communicating anything about it. And I think that definitely hurt it. And if people knew exactly what the kind of, or even the history of how the game started, production, like that was really interesting. But, you know, part of it was that we never talked to the developers. It was only David Cox at Konami, because the developers, I imagine, speak Spanish and might not speak English. But it's like, get a translator. We do it for Japanese developers, you know.
Yeah, fly a few of them in from Spain.
I think in America you could probably find somebody who speaks Spanish and English.
Oh, but hardly anyone speaks Spanish in America.
I know. It's like
everyone speaks American, don't they?
Right. But somehow there's Japanese translators everywhere here. I understand that Mexican Spanish and Spain Spanish are different, but come on, like, I'm sure at E3 in Southern California we could find somebody who spoke Spanish to do some interviews. Either way, disappointing that it didn't get the reception I think it deserved, because I think it was really an excellent game at the end of the day, even if
it's a great adventure. I think it's very similar to Uncharted in many ways.
Yeah, except it was written poorly.
Yes.
And some of the acting was
that sense
really
of like adventure and like what's the next place that I'm going to climb into? What's the next thing that happened to me? You know, that kind of feel. And I think a lot of people really are just bitter that it's a different kind of Castlevania.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that.
I mean, and I understand that. I mean, people love the old Castlevania, but I love it too. But it's, you know, we've had enough of those games.
I've loved it for 20 years. Like, let's do something different. And here's the thing: this is. I mean, just because it's not like Symphony of the Night, this is like Castlevania 1. Or it's actually, I think in Richard's Best of the Rescue, he hit the nail on the head. It's more like Simon's Quest, right? It's a linear, sort of non-linear action game, like straight-up action game. You know, this isn't about the map, and it isn't about tons of exploring, but it is about sort of
combat system that you do need to pay attention to.
It has that sense of mystery that Simon's Quest had, too, you know?
The key difference between this and God of War is, like, I think God of War, the combat often just feels like filler. It's like a time killer that you do between big set pieces, because it's very accessible, it's very easy, it's very satisfying. But, you know, enemies are punching bags. They're not really trying to kill you. And I think Castlevania does require more attention from you and more participation.
The level of variety on the enemies in Castlevania is really great too. A lot of them, you know, you need to have certain kinds of weapons. The amount of combos that you unlock, the amount of weapons and variations of those combos and those weapons at your disposal is pretty staggering. I mean, you have a ton of stuff to do, and in each one of those, you have light magic and dark magic, and you're constantly balancing that inventory of when to use it, where to use it. You know, it led to a really robust combat system where it was always challenging. I mean, and certain games I think are too challenging and I don't get a lot of enjoyment out of them. Like Ninja Gaiden is one of the games that I never enjoyed it. I was not good enough at it. And
I feel this game is very similar to that one, but it's maybe a little more. It's certainly easier. It's more accessible, but it is. I think it's a little more appealing to, like, I think Ninja Gaiden, and I love. You know how much I love Ninja Gaiden, like,
love it.
A lot. But even I know that game is almost dismissive of.
Yes. Dismissive is the word I would use.
It doesn't care about you. It really does not.
I think Castlevania had a really nice learning curve where by the time I was at the end of the game, the things I was doing and the level of skill that I myself contributed to the game was really significant relative to when I first started out. And that was a painful road a lot of times. It meant dying a lot. And learning how to use your light magic or dark magic or combos or a specific combo or a specific type of weapon to beat enemies. And sometimes I would realize, you know, why was that enemy so hard? Because I was using the wrong attack on it, you know? And it's as simple as that. But it's a process that you have to kind of figure out on your own. It was definitely a really challenging game with, I think, a really deep combat system. And that's something that you don't hear talked about a lot, you know, at the end of the year when people are talking about God of War or Bayonetta. And it's like God of War, I think, like you said, God of War is much more, it's almost like, from a combat point of view, it's junk food. You know, it's empty calories. Whereas I think Bayonetta and Lords of Shadow are a lot
even
deeper.
Castlevania has a much more likable. Like, I think if you want to compare games like Darksiders and Castlevania to God of War, it's like, well, they all have more likable main characters. Mm-hmm. So that's a biggie.
Yeah, and that's the other. I mean, one of the reasons that I've never been a big fan of God of War in general is just I can't imagine not only a less likable protagonist, but one with worse voice acting. Wow. Zeus, I'm Bow! The whole aesthetic of that game, just 13-year-old boy overload.
I was playing Ghost of Sparta, which is not a very good game, and like that shtick is just, you can't take it anymore. I think God of War 1, 2, 3 are definitely very good games, but you know, you do get tired of that persona.
People are like, oh, but we love Kratos the character. Like, really? What's Kratos the character? He's mad.
Ripping someone in half. Sure, I get that, but you don't like that guy.
He's really pissed off. Anyway, enough about Kratos. That's Lords of Shadow, spoiled rotten. Let us know what you thought of it and what you thought of the ending. I'm curious to hear how other people read it. For me, the game was never about the story or the performances. They were
nice if it was
pretty bad the whole time, so it didn't ruin my enjoyment experience, and it gave, you still have that nice nerdy thrill of, ooh, that'll be a cool sequel, even if I think the reveal of it was pretty much butchered. But yeah, let us know what you think. That's it. Hopefully we'll do maybe Red Dead Redemption shortly, if I finish it. Yeah. Thanks.
Bye.
Dear Santa, thanks for bringing me absolutely nothing that I asked for. I know in your infinite wisdom, up there at the North Pole on your throne, obviously made of my tears. What up, Santa? What up? I'm available for bat mitzvahs, cake decoratings, candlelighting vigils, a bris. I don't even know what a bris is. Does anybody know what a Brit? Oh, I'm totally not available for a bris now. Well, that's why we can't have nice things. Oh, this is just the audio show. Well, then let me slip into something a little less comfortable. Because I've got a backup plan. Oh, yeah. That hole in the ozone? Guess who's gonna make it bigger? Last one out, turn the lights off. I'm cashing my check. Shit!